Sir. Good afternoon, dear participants. Kindly please be patient. Our expert is joining. Good afternoon, participants. This is Dr. Menaka from Chennai Institute of Technology, the coordinator of this HTTP program. Actually, I found many messages in the chat, in the group, WhatsApp group. It's regarding the webinar jam, the platform used for this conduct of HTTP program. Actually, we were using the same platform for the past 3-4 months. We never faced issues like this. The one thing you should remember is you have to kindly register and join before the start of the session. Otherwise, the link will be closed. It will open only for the next session. So kindly be aware of it. Even if you are late for 1 minute, it won't allow. So it is not in the hand of us. We cannot do anything with that. Actually, this is what the instruction given to us from the management side and the principal. So we are very sorry for that. If you are joining us before the start of session, definitely you can easily understand. You can join. 1 second, Sam sir, please. 1 second, Sam sir. Can you hear me, sir? Sir, can you hear me? Sir, can you hear me? Hello, sir. And also participants, some of you were asking about feedback link. We will post the feedback link in the last day afternoon session along with one MCQ type of questions. It will be around only 10 questions from the sessions conducted. You can complete those 2 activities in the last day afternoon
yes,
session.
ma'am.
Sir, can you hear me, sir? And all the video links will be shared with you after the completion of third series. Actually, this is the same webinar series conducted for 3 times. So we are unable to give you the video links now itself. Definitely we will give you after the completion of third series. So regarding course material, you will definitely receive information through mail as well as through the WhatsApp group we have. So don't worry about the session materials and all. We will give you the whole material, and feedback and the multiple choice questions type of questions will be shared with you. Link for those 2 will be shared with you in the last day afternoon session. So you can complete those 2. And again, we have to check all the attendance. Don't worry about your attendance. Some of you have messaged like I did not register today, so don't worry about it. We will manage it manually. So don't worry, don't feel anything about your attendance. You will definitely receive attendance. Thank you, participants. Now I request our expert, sir. Sam, sir?
Yes. Yes, madam. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I can hear. So, dear participants, we welcome you all to the third day of this afternoon session. The AICTE sponsored HTTP program on Internet of Medical Things, enabling technologies in healthcare. So today we have Dr. Sam Thomas with us. Professor Sam Thomas is a trainer in the field of embedded systems and IoT. And being passionate about learning, he has conducted many workshops to enhance the practical knowledge of the knowledge in the field of electronics and as well as IoT. So far, he has conducted more than 25 workshops and also have been in teaching field for around 10 years. So I request the expert to continue with the session. Sir, can you continue, sir?
Yes, madam, I'll take over. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So thank you all for joining. So I'm Sam Thomas. I've been into training of embedded systems, and today we'll be looking into the topic of IoT protocols and how we can get started. There's a lot of theory connected to it, but one of the main things is we need to see how we need to look into the practicals. Yeah. So let us see. So I hope the slide is visible to you. And so
sir, it is
this is my
visible,
profile.
Sir.
Okay. So this is my profile. I've conducted a number of workshops throughout Tamil Nadu, and I'm a trainer in embedded systems. Yeah. So when we talk about medical IoT, so it's actually bridging the existing two technologies, that is wireless and then the medical devices. So how do we get the wireless data from medical devices and put it onto the internet? So that is what what you call as medical IoT. So we are just having a look at the sorry. Okay. Okay. So we are just having a look at the PPT over here. If you can see, this is one of the medical devices that is strapped onto the chest. It takes a ECG reading. So this ECG reading is taken and it is fed through Bluetooth to your phone, where it's again uploaded to a website. So if you see over here, these are the data that are going to be measured by this electronic device, that is ECG, your temperature, your heart rate, and then you link it over Bluetooth. So now you collect the data, you send the data over Bluetooth over to your mobile, and your mobile, since it is having a cellular network, that will transmit the data over to a database where it's going to be maintained. Hence, you have a medical IoT device. So you have an existing medical technology where you're going to add a wireless technology and upload the data that is coming from the medical device to the cloud. So that is your medical IoT. Let us have another look at the device also. It is called a swallowable sensor. It's a very small device where the user swallows this device, and as it travels throughout our body, it detects various gases and the temperature, and takes this data and sends it to an outside device. It has been under development by RMIT University. Very fast, it's going to be coming out. So, what is the advantage of this? Without any operation, we are able to take the medical data and send it wirelessly. We can also upload it to the net. That makes it a medical IoT device. So next we have, this is a asthma device. Of course, we have seen it. Now this maintains the data. Now, what does it do? It collects the data. Okay, how much times you used it, and how many. What is the current condition? Is it going to get over? How much amount of the medicine is left? So this, if you see over here, the top device, this will collect the data and send it over Bluetooth to a mobile. So again, this mobile will upload it to a cloud. So hence you have a medical IoT device. Of course, this will contain a small battery and a Bluetooth transceiver. You have to
Sir, Sam sir, we can't hear you. I think some technical issue from the expert side. Please be online. He will join quickly. Sir?
Yes, madam. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You can proceed.
Yes. I'm so sorry
Yes,
regarding the interruption. Okay, so we have the wearable biosensors that we are talking about, and next existing device is the Apple Watch.
sir,
So
your screen
basically,
is not shared.
Oh, screen is not shared. I'm sorry, ma'am. Okay, can you see it now, madam?
Yes, sir. Yes. Okay.
Yes. Okay. So another existing device is the Apple Watch. Now, what this does is a number of people have been saved by this. The watch detects it has a ECG heart rate sensor built into it, so it detects the heart rate and then sends it over Bluetooth to your mobile. It shows if there is any sort of variation with your heartbeat and tries to detect if there is anything wrong. If you look at the image over here, one person has been identified with arterial fibrillation. That is a sinusoidal beating of the heart. So this has been identified by the Apple Watch. Another important application is a person who had an accident. He was lying unconscious. The watch itself identified that he has gone unconscious and started sending its location to the nearby emergency services. So these are few applications of your IoT watch. Another thing that is going to be coming up is detecting the depression disorder. Again, it's going to be through the variation of the heartbeat that is going to be read by the Apple Watch. They are made ready by Takeda and Cognitive Kit. You can just read upon it. The application name is MDD5003. You can search on it on the App Store and you can see what is happening. Yeah. Another one is for giving out medication at a timely manner. So, okay, I have an elderly who's wanting to have medication at so and so time. So this machine will start giving medicines, and the person has to come and just collect it. So you don't have to. A person does not have to be there to monitor the situation. So that is one application of medical. Another one is, of course, our thermometer, which is having now recently it is a Kinsa company that is having this. They have a IoT based thermometer. Now, what is the advantage of this is all my temperature, whichever I've read, is going to be logged in. So that is one major advantage. Now, another thing to consider is what is the amount of cost that is going to be added to my medical devices when I add IoT. So if you look at here, I have a kettle which is by Xiaomi, and this is a IoT based kettle. You can on and off based on your internet connection. Now, if you compare the cost, a normal Prestige kettle will only be around 1,000 rupees. But the IoT based kettle, the cost is going up to 5,000 rupees. So there is an added cost when you come to IoT based devices. Similarly, an ordinary thermometer is only going to cost you somewhere between 200 to 300 rupees. But when you have an IoT based device, your cost drastically increases. Here, if you see, it is more than 20 times the cost. It is more than 30 times the cost also. So that is one thing you need to consider. So another thing is, now what is IoT? IoT is a lot of things, that is your devices. It can be your sensor that is measuring temperature. You need to take this temperature and put it onto a local network. The local network transfers the data to the cloud, and from the cloud, you put it onto a server where we are going to process the data. Of course, processing can also happen at the devices side. If you process at the device side, it's just known as edge computing. That's all. If you're going to send process data, it is known as edge computing. If you're going to take processing at the server side, it's just known as simple IoT. Yeah. So if you look at this at the things side, you are going to have sensors, actuators. You can control the position of the bed. You can control, okay, I need to supply this much of medicine. Then you have actuators. Then you're going to be processing, and then you're going to be communicating. For communication, what and all you have Bluetooth and you have wireless, and a number of techniques that we are going to be seeing. Next, you have your local network, which you're going to connect. Then you have your internet, and then you have your remote server. So if you look now, if you want to know what is IoT is the bridging gap between the cloud and your device. So the bridging gap between your cloud and your device becomes known as your IoT. So here is where IoT network stays. So you already have a well-built cloud technology. You already have sensors which are well-built. Now, to connect both of this, you have your IoT. So why is there everybody interested in IoT? Because by 2025, you're going to be having 100 billion devices connected. That is, in terms of revenue, it's a lot of revenue. Yes. So today, this is what we are going to be looking at. We are going to be having a look at what are the sensors and networks we are going to be using. And on the other side, software and services on the cloud side. Now, since a lot of staff are there, of course, for collecting the data, we'll be using microcontrollers. We have two types of coding in microcontrollers. You can have the assembly language or the C language. And of course, a lot of our students will be using Arduino. I just want to tell you why there is a shift towards using Arduino rather than existing microcontrollers. Yeah. Now, if you're going to be writing your program in assembly language, both are the same program. If you see, in microcontroller, you have more than 25 lines. But the same thing, I can within 5 lines, I can finish the coding. So this is one major advantage of choosing C over assembly language. Now, this is a program to display on the LCD just the data M, D, and E. So if I'm going to be using C language, the number of codes you can see on the left hand side. But in Arduino, I can do the same thing. Yes.
Screen is not visible.
Oh, screen is not visible. Oh, this one.
Black.
Okay. Now is it visible, ma'am? Now is it visible?
Loading, sir. 1 second. I'll check.
Madam.
Yeah, tell me, sir.
Is it visible now, ma'am?
No, not yet. It's showing.
It's not visible.
Loading.
Sorry. Oh, it's showing loading symbol. Just 1 minute. I'll just try to see what I can do.
Visible, sir. You can.
It's visible, huh? Okay. Thank you. Okay. So this is one reason why a lot of our students choose Arduino. It is because see the number of codings on the C language, it's more than 25. But when you come to Arduino, the number of coding required is very less. So to get started, Arduino is very useful. Yeah. So that is one reason why we can encourage students to go into Arduino, because with a limited amount of time, we can achieve more. Okay. Next one is, these are the amount of sensors. Of course, you can just have a check for everything, even for measuring ECG, everything there is a sensor. Now, one important thing to notice, all sensor outputs are going to be analog in nature. Our microcontroller is going to be digital. So we need to convert this analog to digital. So we have a ADC in between. Now, if you want to have more precision, that means your ADC, the number of bits has to increase. So more the precision, more the bits. So here on the left hand side, I'm showing the LM35. It produces an analog signal. It goes into the ADC of the microcontroller and it produces a digital output. So that is how we get a digital output. I'm just using the function analog read. If it is an accelerometer, it will produce a digital output. That means I'll get 3 outputs. Accelerometer means X, Y, and Z axis. Now this is a ECG sensor. It will produce me data which I can plot it. So the ECG sensor available is AD8232. You just attach it to your Arduino. You give it the supply. You tell it. You give it the output, and then you will produce a output. It is very simple coding. Within 10 lines of coding, you can produce a ECG output. I think the kit is around 250 rupees. Arduino board is around 500 rupees. Within 800 rupees, you can do a small ECG project. That's a medical project. You combine that with a wireless technology, it becomes IoT. You send the data to cloud, it becomes IoT. Okay, next one is your GPS receiver. So if you see here, the amount of data that the GPS receiver sends is close to 80 to 200 bytes. But for a temperature, the amount of data you're going to get is only maximum, maybe if it is an 8-bit ADC, you're going to get a 1 byte of data. If it is 13-bit ADC, you're going to get 2 bytes of data. So the amount of data for a temperature reading is very less, but the amount of data for a GPS receiver is going to be 80 to 200 bytes. So that is something we need to keep in mind. Now, if it comes to medical devices, the amount of data we are going to be sending is very, very less. We are not going to be sending GPS data. We are going to be only sending, okay, what is the temperature now? What is the ECG? What is the heart rate, current heart rate? Is there any variation? So those are the things we need to take into consideration. Now, if you come into IoT devices, certain things we need to consider is what is going to be the battery life. Okay, I have an implant in my body. I cannot every now and then change the battery. It's going to be it's a medical process, so it's not advisable at all. So if I'm going to be having something in my body that's going to be transmitting, how and when it's going to be transmitting, what amount of data is going to be transmitting, what is going to be the battery, how long is going to be the battery lasting. So those are the things we need to take into consideration. Of course, now when you talk about IoT, Internet of Things, the things side, the functions that it needs to do is it needs to acquire the data, or it needs to control something. Now the data that we get, we need to process it, send it wired or wirelessly, and then you need to have power management. So these are the things that once you are trying to implement IoT, these are the functions you're going to try to achieve. If any of your students are interested in doing a course online, I'm giving a course in Udemy. It is called Introduction to Embedded Systems. You can go to Udemy, Introduction to Embedded Systems. The coupon is FDP CIT. It's valid for 3 days and it is free. Normally the course is around 2,000 rupees, but for now, for next 3 days, just for this FDP, I'm giving it for free. Yeah, if any of your students are interested, you can log on to this. It will tell you how to operate with the Arduino. Now, what we are seeing is, we are seeing how to take data, how to read data. Now, what we are going to see is how to, once the data is read, how we are going to take the data and send it wirelessly. For sending it wirelessly, the options are, we have Wi-Fi, which is IEEE 802.11. There is it's an existing technology, so I'm not going to talk much. One thing we need to remember is, for Wi-Fi, the power consumption is going to be very, very high. So if you're going to be having an IoT device, your Wi-Fi is not going to be a proper choice. But if it is inside a hospital area, you're going to be have plugged in devices. So if you have plugged in devices where power consumption is not an issue, then we go in for Wi-Fi. But if power consumption is going to be an issue, we are not going to be selecting Wi-Fi. Yeah. So I hope you understand the power consumption requirement for Wi-Fi, and if there is lesser, if a device consumes lesser power, we cannot have Wi-Fi. But in case you want to get started in Wi-Fi, which is the easiest one, I would suggest starting with the board known as ESP32. I would suggest this device. You can ask your students also to get started on this. It's a very easy device to get started. ESP32. It has a built-in Bluetooth and Wi-Fi on the board itself. So it's approximately 500 rupees. You can just connect it. It uses the same Arduino IDE, and you just connect the ECG sensor, enable the Wi-Fi, and then you can send the data to the net, and then you have a IoT medical device. Very easy to get started. ESP32. The other one is Arduino board with the first version, ESP8266. We need not start there. And there's another one also, Wi-Fi ESP8266, but I would suggest ESP32. Some other options are from TI Instruments, Texas Instruments, that is CC3200. It's quite costlier compared to ESP32. Yeah. Bosch also has a device. I think it runs close to 10,000 rupees, this one. So ESP32 is a better option. If you want to develop your own board, if you want to develop your own device, then you can go in for this particular device, where you develop your own board and the AT-Win CI500. So you take this board, attach it to the PCB that you have developed, and then you have a Wi-Fi device. Yeah. So I'm just showing here the Wi-Fi ESP32. So it can either connect through Wi-Fi or Bluetooth. So the only thing you have to tell is, what is the network I'm going to connect to? What is my password? Very easy to get started. See, the coding is I'm just showing the coding just for you to get started here. So if you see over here, initially I'm telling initially I'm telling what is my Wi-Fi password, what is my Wi-Fi username, what is my Wi-Fi password, then connect, begin mode, and just check the connection. Once the connection is established, you can just go ahead with the reading the sensors and sending it over the network. So it's very easy to get started. I'm just going through this because our time is very limited. Usually it's like a 1.5 hours, 2 hours session. So next one is Bluetooth. You can use the same devices. So these are few of the devices available in the market. If you want to have the latest, then you need to go in for Bluetooth 5.0. That is the current technology that we are using. The reason we are shifted to Bluetooth 5.0 is because of BLE technology, Bluetooth Low Energy. So you can have you can start over with BLE, that is Bluetooth 5.0. Okay, device to device communication or device to router communication, and then you can have I'm sure most of us have heard something that we teach in our final year, that is wireless sensor networks. So you using ESP32, using Bluetooth, we can set up wireless sensor networks. So each device, this can take the temperature, this can take the humidity, this can take something else. Everyone can send data across, and we can have a wireless sensor network also established using ESP32. So this technology that we are teaching in the final year, we can easily apply it using ESP32. Of course, you will run into some problem when you have both Bluetooth and Wi-Fi running at the same time. Can anybody tell me why? Actually, the main thing is because both of them uses 2.4 gigahertz. So you can only have one running at a time. So once you receive things over Bluetooth, then you send the data over Wi-Fi. So that is how you establish a connection here. Okay. So going next, setting up a Bluetooth connection is also very easy. It is just that you need to tell what is your Bluetooth device. You need to know what's the Bluetooth password, and then just start sending data. Here, as you can see, we are sending data and receiving data. It's very easy to get started. You will have some hurdle just starting maybe the first 1 hour, but after the first hour, it becomes very easy. So Wi-Fi versus Bluetooth. Can you hear me, madam? Is there any issue? Okay, I'll just go ahead. Yeah. Okay. So next one is, this is just a comparison of Wi-Fi over Bluetooth. So if you see over here, Wi-Fi has a longer distance of communication, but Bluetooth has, the distance is much lower, and power consumption is also much lesser. So you need to decide, okay, if I have more power to consume, then I can what is my distance for transmission. So I can select whether it's Wi-Fi or Bluetooth. Okay, since our time is very limited, I'll just go over very fast. Another one is LoRa technology, that is long range. That is, we can have longer range, but the amount of data that I can send is very less. If you see over the graph over here, it is very lesser compared to even to Bluetooth. It is going to be in kbps, but longer range I can send it. So this, I would like to recollect what I told earlier. So if you are going to have a temperature sensor, you read the temperature, you have a 8-bit ADC. So if you have a 8-bit ADC, your temperature is only going to be 1 byte of data. So the amount of data you're going to be sent is very less for medical devices or any other application. So depending on the application, I need to select my technology. So if you look at LoRa, it's going to be, you're going to be transmitting only kilobytes of data, but my temperature is only going to be 1 byte of data. So LoRa and Bluetooth makes a better implementation over shorter distances. So if you want to get into LoRa, these are a few models. You can just note it down. Yeah, I'm just going a bit fast. Yeah. Next one is Sigfox. Again, it has its own set of towers, its own set of network. You cannot use the existing network. Currently, they are just entering India, and Sigfox is, if you want to transmit again only bytes of data. So if you look over here, the amount of data that you're going to be transmitting, is your header is only going to be 12 bytes and the total is only going to be 26 bytes. So the amount of data you're going to be transmitting is very, very less. So you cannot have, if it is going to be ECG implementation, you cannot do it over Sigfox. But if you want to send only, suppose you want to send only 140 messages per day, then you can have Sigfox network. If you see over here, the purple color represents the implementation. Currently, it is just entering India. It has been established in a few places. Another one is cellular technology. You can use this. It's an existing technology. You communicate over serial. You transmit data and you receive data. If you have a SIM card setup, of course, the power consumption is going to be greater in this case. Next one, you have NB-IoT. This is also going to be existing technology. So two things are LTE-M and LTE. Okay. So another implementation you can do is Zigbee. That is, I think it is IEEE 802.15.2. I'm not very sure. So this is Zigbee technology. If you compare it with Bluetooth and Wi-Fi, the Zigbee technology has, the cost is going to be higher. So that is one reason we don't go in for Zigbee, because Bluetooth implementation is going to be much lesser. Because the same, you can have a network built using Bluetooth rather than Zigbee. So these are a few networks. So there is another one known as Thread. You have a few implementation over here. That is your Google Nest and your Next Yale. Another one implementation is your sub 1 gigahertz. So currently what we saw is, we take the temperature reading. Now we have the temperature, and then we connect it over wirelessly or wired. Of course, most of us are going to be doing a wireless implementation. You select any one of the protocols and you connect it to a cloud. So either Bluetooth or Wi-Fi. Of course, Bluetooth cannot connect to the cloud. You need to connect through Wi-Fi. Bluetooth can be used from device to device communication. So now we are going to see how to send data to the cloud. So if it is a wired operation, you can have an Ethernet connection also. So currently we saw what is the network link. And on top of that, since it's going to be IoT, you're going to have 6 LoWPAN in the internet layer and IPv6, or you can also have IPv4 routing, but IPv6 has more number of devices you can connect. Okay. So then for transport layer, you have TCP or UDP. Most of the cases we are going to be using UDP. Next one. So coming to today's topic, that is your MQTT. So how do I implement my MQTT? So MQTT is nothing but message queuing telemetry transport. So it has a publish and subscribe model. It also maintains a quality of service. What is publish and subscribe model? So you'll have a broker in between or a server in between. One device will say, I'm going to publish the temperature model. Another subscriber will say, anybody who sends a temperature, I want to get that information. Suppose I have 10 clients over here. So 10 people are going to be sending the temperature information. So this client will say, any temperature information, I want the data. So this client subscribes to the topic temperature. This client publishes the data temperature. I hope you understand. Yeah. So this is one picture showing this on the left hand side. On the left hand side, you have the client publishing the temperature. On the right hand side, you have two different clients. One client requires the speed, another client requires the temperature. Only the temperature information is sent to the second client, if you see over here. And of course, you have more than any number of clients. So this is how the MQTT can be implemented. Now let us see how actual implementation will work. So you have most of us will know what is a Raspberry Pi. What is the difference between a Raspberry Pi and a microcontroller? You can have a Raspberry Pi is a microprocessor. You can have OS running on this. So here you will have the broker. So I read the temperature, give it to the broker. The broker will process it and send it to the correct client. So this is how MQTT works. I think the time is very less, only 15 minutes more, so we'll just go very fast. So if you want to do a MQTT implementation, one of the best methods is you can there's something known as Mosquitto MQTT. You can just log in there and set up an account. This will get the data and publish the data. So it works on a publish and subscribe model. So you have MQTT implementation. So you just create so you have a Raspberry Pi, you go to Cloud MQTT, you create a username, you create an account, take the username, password, put it on the Raspberry Pi, and then you have a broker ready. Now once a broker is ready, you set up the client, you set up two clients. Okay, one client will be publishing, another client will be subscribing. So okay, we lost quite a lot of time. Okay. So I'll just very quickly I'll tell you how to do it. Of course, we have header files to do it, but this is what happens at the background. So you have MQTT implementation. So first, what you do is you establish a Wi-Fi connection. You tell it's a TCP connection, and then you need to first send the connect packet. And then you need to tell, okay, I'm going to publish or subscribe. First, I need to connect to the broker, and then I need to tell, okay, am I publishing or am I subscribing? So that is something you need to take. First, we look at the connect packet. If you look at the connect packet, first you need to tell what type of command you're going to do and what is your header. So I'll just skip over this because it will take a long time. I'll not be able to cover the other topics. So these are, I just wanted to go through the protocol one by one, but this is how you build up the protocol, the connect packet. So once the connect packet is ready, then you send the publish packet. Now in my publish packet, I'll be telling, okay, this is the data that I want to send. So first you establish a Wi-Fi connection, then you tell, okay, I am a client, I want to connect to this particular broker. Next, I'm going to publish this amount of data. So this is what is going to happen. Of course, for a subscribe packet, the header alone will be different. So this is how MQTT works. Tomorrow, if you're going to go in for IoT implementation, there will be majorly two protocols. That is, one is MQTT or CoAP. That's the one we are going to see next. If you want to have any information about MQTT, please go to mqtt.org. Next is your CoAP. It is very similar to your HTTP. If it is very similar to HTTP, my question is, why don't we use HTTP? So the one major reason is CoAP's header byte is only 4 bytes of data. If you see here, CoAP, its header byte is only 4 bytes of data. If you see over here, so here, my entire data header is only 4 bytes. The remaining things are optional. So with 4 bytes of header file and along with my payload, that is, let us say it is my temperature data, I can send my data. But if it comes to actual HTTP implementation, in order to send one data, I need a minimum of 430 bytes. But when it comes to CoAP, I just need 4 bytes of just header file plus my payload. Yes, so that is one reason why CoAP has also become very famous. This is another reason why we don't use HTTP in IoT. We use CoAP. If in case we are going to be using HTTP, the amount of data we are going to be transmitting is quite high. So we are not going to be using HTTP. So let us always remember CoAP stands for Constrained Application Protocol. Internet of Things are constrained devices that sends small amount of data over a lower bandwidth. So that is why we need constrained devices. So this is just an example. I'll just go through this. So this is just a client and server communication. Again, this is an example. So this is something we need to know. So my thing, that is my Internet of Things, my device can be using CoAP. It will communicate with a proxy. So my CoAP protocol gets easily converted to my HTTP protocol. So this is one major advantage of my CoAP. So I can use existing technology for my Internet of Things. My CoAP using a proxy, I can easily convert from a CoAP protocol to a HTTP protocol. Next one is it will wait for the observation. You can also have block transfer where a huge amount of data is split into many small segments and transmitted. So till now what we saw was okay, how do I read my temperature? I get either it's analog data or digital data. I get my temperature. Next, using wireless technology or wire technology, I connect to the cloud. Using these protocols, I send my data to the cloud. So this becomes your Internet of Things. My things is my data. What are my data? It can be any sensor, or it can also be a motor that I'm trying to control. So I have a sensor or an actuator coupled with a microcontroller. So that becomes a thing. So we all previously saw what is a thing. A thing has to acquire data, or it has to control something, it has to process the data, it has to connect. So for connection, I'll either use Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, Zigbee, Thread, cellular, or LoRa technology. So using this, I connect to the internet. How do I send my data? Using any one of these protocols, connect to the cloud. So this basically is your overview of your Internet of Things. So we'll have a large amount of data. Suppose we have large amount of data, then we need to properly categorize the data. So for that, we have data representation. We have JSON, XML, YAML, and CSV. CSV, we all know, that is nothing but our Microsoft Excel data. That is comma separated format. JSON is this one. So you have strings, numbers, anyone you can transmit. I'm just going through it because time is very limited here. And next one is we again have XML data. So this is how XML data looks. Next we have CSV data. Any one of this we can select and send it over the network. So again, coming back to the Internet of Things. So if I read my sensor, if I have large amount of data, I use data representation. I use any one of them. I build a connection, and then using one of these protocols, I connect to the cloud. So this entire one becomes my Internet of Things. So this is an overview of your Internet of Things. Another major thing is we need to be concerned about is the security of the devices. Of course, there have been known to have our data that we send wirelessly are always open to other people to be seen. So I can use a sniffer or anything just to get the data. Okay, this is just one scenario where a company called Ring that was transmitting data wirelessly, another person interpreted this data and they could see what is happening inside your house. This is internet security developed by Mozilla Web Technologies. This was another one where a kid's toy, the internet connected kid's toy, another person hacked it and they had a microphone inside the door. So the microphone inside the door, other person could hear what they were talking. So a lot of things needs to be considered when we talk about internet technology. So another thing is Bluetooth sniffer. If I have a Bluetooth sniffer, I can read any data that is sent between two devices. So it's a Bluetooth is available in the market, and so that is why internet security is very, very important. Now, what do we do with all this data? Then we give it to big data and we do it machine learning. We learn from all this data. So this is the process. And next, so this is what happens in the cloud. So the data that is being sent over to the cloud, you store the data, you do machine learning, that is artificial intelligence. You can have deep learning, various algorithms are there. So you learn from this data, and then you have to implement security also. So what are some of the services? The services is, some of the services is you can have maintenance, you can have design updates. Why design updates? Because based on the coming data, you can design, you can update your existing design. You can have asset tracking, you can have real-time tracking, you can have alert notification also. Suppose I have a watch, suppose it says suddenly my heart rate is showing an irregular beating, I can immediately alert my the hospital. So that is why your services comes in. So with this, we have covered the entire scenario of your Internet of Things. I'm sorry I rushed through a lot of things. It's actually a bit longer session. In between, we had this internet problems and all. So with this, I'll just close. Yeah, and if anybody is interested, I'll just post the links in the comment section also. If anybody is interested, you can go ahead. Yeah. Okay. So I'm done with my talk. Madam?
Sir, can you hear me,
Madam?
sir?
Yes, madam. I can hear you.
Sir, actually, few issues we had in our network, I think. So we missed the chat history, sir. Can you read it from your screen?
Okay. I'm having only one question is there by Dr. Naveen Kumar. Is Raspberry Pi, if Raspberry Pi is already, then why are we still working on Arduino? Okay. So in order for, suppose if it is, let's say, Raspberry Pi, you use it for implementation of the broker. That is, it's a complete computer. But if you just want to read the data, suppose you're having just 3 or 4 sensors, that is temperature, humidity. You read the data, and then you just want to send it over Bluetooth connection. A easier implementation will be Arduino. Suppose you want to be having something running in OS, that is, you want to be running your broker, then you go in for Raspberry Pi. Of course, you can use Raspberry Pi also. The cost is, I think, 6 times more. So it's if you just want to implement a microcontroller based solution, you can use your Arduino. If you want to implement a microprocessor, that is a OS based solution, then you can go in for your Raspberry Pi. A Raspberry Pi, you can always do a lot of things, because you can have edge computing in the Raspberry Pi itself. According to Dr. Naveen, yes, the statement is correct. When you want to have edge computing, you go in for Raspberry Pi. I don't see any other question, madam, actually.
Participants, if you have any questions, you can post it in chat box.
Okay. I have posted a link also. If anybody is interested in, if any of your students are interested in the course also, you can forward this link to them. It's completely free.
Sir, we have one more question, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Can I read it, sir?
Yes.
What are the different sensors there in Android smartphone that can be used?
So different sensors in Android smartphone is, I think, only one major sensor is your accelerometer. That is all you can use, I think so. you cannot use anything much, because that is one thing I worked with where you can extract the data. The other one is your camera sensor. You can use that also to extract data. So those are two things that I know of currently. In Android, in your phone, no, you're talking about, if it is your phone, they'll have, mostly it is inbuilt into the chip. You cannot extract it. Only using software you can extract the data. So it is your camera and your accelerometer.
Okay, okay. Thank you so much, sir. I hope there is no more questions. Participants, if you have any questions. Yeah, no issues, sir. No issues. Actually, it happens everywhere. We are somehow managing and this pandemic situation. So thank you, participants. Thank you all for your patience listening. Sir, thank you so much, sir. Definitely, this will be very much useful to all the participants. Thank you, sir.
Thank you for hosting me.
Thank you, sir. So participants, you can join for the next day session. Try to be on time. Like the session will start from 10 a.m. So join the session before 10:50 at least. 9:50. I'm sorry, 9:50 at least. Thank you. Thank you.